In this episode, I will uncover the secret that has allowed Starbucks to see massive success with their customers and how you can apply this to your own podcast or social media page. Hey, what's going on, everyone? It's Alec Casson here. And if you're new to Digital Ministry Mastery, we provide digital ministry leaders with the tactics they need to create greater impact and income online. Because I believe that, if we're working hard to provide a lot of value in the world, then we should be compensated for it. And I also believe that you shouldn't have to rely on sponsorships or going viral in order to see success online. So Seth Godin, for many of you who may not know, he's like a really intelligent marketer. He has like one of the best minds when it comes to marketing. And he talks about how the buying cycle for people has been increasing over time as the internet has been getting more integrated in people's lives. And he mentions it quite a lot in his book, This is Marketing, and definitely recommend checking it out. It's some really good stuff. But there's been basically a trend that has been happening online where people need to be indoctrinated for longer periods of time before they feel comfortable making a decision to buy from you or not. So whether it's taking time to do research on a product or compare prices, people have more power to do thorough digging that they really didn't have before. So now obviously, it's important to be able to make an informed decision when someone's buying, but it makes advertising costs go up for a lot of people online. So if someone has to see your ad like 20 times before making a decision to purchase, and it costs you like 50 cents to show that ad to that person each time, then you're spending like $10 just to get a customer who's trying to buy something for you that might only be like $12. But if it costs you like $5 to make the darn thing, now you're like losing money. And it's like, well, what's the point of doing it? Running ads if I'm just losing money. So there are many approaches to overcoming this. In one of my previous videos, I talk about like a strategy that I'm going to be implementing for my own Facebook ads. But one way to overcome this problem is to increase the lifetime value of your customer. So what this means is that, if you're going to look at the average value of your customer over a year, how much they're going to spend with you during that year, that's basically an example of like the lifetime value of someone, because you're not just looking at like how much do they spend with me in this moment, but how much have they spent with me over a period of time. Because sticking with the example that I said prior, if I spent $10 to get a customer and they bought something worth $12, initially, you may not be making any money. But if over the course of a year, they end up spending $400 buying what you have to offer, now you're not in the negative anymore. So, spending $10 to make $400, that doesn't sound too bad. But this approach, it takes a lot of time because, you're having to lose money in the beginning to eventually make money later on, which can be tough for, a lot of us who are running something online. So the approach the other approach that you can take is to increase the average cart value of the customer. So what this means is basically like, I want you to imagine, let's say it costs you $10 to get a customer. And when they go to add the $12 product to their shopping cart, if you want to increase like the average cart value, what you could do is you could present them an offer to buy another thing for an additional $20. So now when they check out, they're like, yeah, you know what, that $20 thing, that sounds good. I didn't even think of that. I'll add that to the cart as well. Now they're spending like $32 instead of $12. So if enough people buy the additional $20 product, now the average value of your customer is going to increase, or the average cart value for each customer is going to increase. So even though some people may only pay $12, there's a good percentage of people who will pay $32. Which, covers basically all the costs for the ads. So both of those approaches, if I had to say which one should you do, I would say, honestly, if you could implement both of them. But, if you aren't able to build a good relationship and a bond with your audience before the purchase, it can cost a lot of money to get them to make that initial purchase as well. So you got to really make sure you're both like establishing a good rapport with potential customers, as well as increasing the lifetime value of them, as well as increasing the average cart value of them too. So, this is why it's important. You got to build a bond with your audience before you ever make them an offer. And I actually had the pleasure of speaking with Brian Sexton. He is the author of People Buy From People. That's the title of the book. Title of the book is People Buy From People. And to hear his advice about improving the relationship with your audience before ever making an offer to them to buy from you, I actually got a chance to get I asked him, I was like, what's some advice that you would give? So what I'm going to do right now is we're going to go over to an audio clip that he had sent me talking about this exact concept of building rapport with people before you ever offer your product to them.
Hi, my name is Brian Sexton. I am the host of the Intentional Encourager podcast and the author of the book People Buy From People. I want to talk to you today about why building relationships first with potential customers is so important. In today's society, customers have unlimited choices. They can literally get on their phones, get on their laptops, their tablets, and they can literally search any product, good or service that they want to buy and connect with those brands and messages that speak to them. So I'm going to give you 3 reasons why building relationships with your potential customers first is so critically important. The first reason is, as I wrote in my book, People Buy From People, people buy connection before ever making a transaction. Why do you think companies are so intentional, if you will, on brand loyalty and building that loyalty with that customer? Well, they want to create that connection so that when that customer thinks of their good or service, they go there first. I'm a Hilton Honors member. More times than not, when I'm going to book a hotel, I'm going to book through a Hilton property because Hilton is trying to get me every time through their loyalty program to come to their properties. And they do a good job. They always take care. I'm a Diamond member, so they always take care of me, always make sure I am satisfied. And so it's because they're trying to connect with me. So every time that I have a lodging need, I go to Hilton properties first and foremost. Never forget, people buy connection before they ever make a transaction. Number 2, like products, it's hard to sell what you don't know. If I were to ask you that's listening, if I were to say, sell me this piece of machinery that does something very, very technical, and you have no knowledge of it, it's going to be hard for you to sell it. You couldn't tell me what it does, what benefit is to me, how it's going to save me time and money, because you know nothing about the product. When you try to have a transactional relationship before having a connective relationship, you don't know your customer. You don't know how they buy. You don't know how they want to buy. What is important to them in the buying process? What makes them feel comfortable in the buying process? So like products, it's hard to sell what you don't know. And finally, number 3, transactional relationships never last. When you are a transactional seller, and forgive me for making this analogy, you, for all intents and purposes, are a prostitute in the marketplace. In other words, all you're doing is offering a good or service. All you want is money in return. You don't want to build a relationship. You don't want to do anything else. You just want to make a sale and move on to that next opportunity. And then a lot of times you're going to leave that customer feeling cheap and dirty because all you have done is basically taken their money, given them a good and service, maybe patted them on the back, and you really don't care if they're satisfied or not. You really don't care if they got any benefit from your product. You're just wanting to collect your cash and move on. I hope this has helped you understand why relationships first with potential customers is of paramount importance. Check out my book, People Buy From People, on Amazon, and check out the Intentional Encourager podcast wherever you get podcasts. Thanks so much.
Yeah, so, oh man, I don't know about you, but all that stuff that Brian was saying in his little audio clip there that he had sent over for us, it was just like packed full of wisdom there. Like the first thing of like people buying connection before they buy from you, and the whole thing of like people identifying with your product or with your brand first. Like I know for some people, they will only buy from Starbucks. It doesn't matter if there's a Dunkin' Donuts around. They aren't getting Starbucks for the coffee. They're getting it for how they identify with it. Same thing with like people who are huge fans of Apple products. Like I do, like you can have someone who's an avid Android fan and they will come over, they will have the best phone, gigabyte RAM or whatever, the best camera that could zoom in 100 feet, and an Apple fan will not hear it. They will not, it'll go in one ear out the other. Not that it's a bad thing, but it's like those are those examples of brand loyalty. The other thing too of understanding like your customer or your potential customer, knowing what their needs are and what their desires are is so important, because I could be trying to tell you how these headphones right here, the wireless headphones, are so great. They charge so fast. They have the best sound quality. And like, I'm talking about the sound quality of it. It's got so much bass and rumble. And like, if I'm trying to sell this to someone who I don't know, I might be trying to sell them on how good the audio quality is. But for them, they're a stay-at-home dad, and they got to deal with, kids making a lot of noise, and they just want to be able to pop in their headphones, not hear the vacuum as they're cleaning the house, and not hearing, their kids, screaming while they're, playing with their toys and stuff. So like, while I'm over here trying to really pitch how good the audio quality is, all he needs to hear is, does this help cancel, noise? Exterior noise. If it does, good, I'm sold. And it's just so interesting, because we may be trying to do that where it's like we're trying so hard to promote our podcast or our social media channels, and all we got to do is like, there's just like the one thing that we may not know that they want to hear, but if we were to know them and we were to say that, it's like an instant, they're in, they are sold. And then the last thing, I thought it was hilarious how Brian mentioned like how he related it's like prostitution, where it's like, you give me your money, I give you this thing, and then we part ways. And it's like, I've had that happen where I've made the purchase and then like, that's it. That's all all that person wanted was my money. They don't like, if the product really was a good product or not, they don't care. As long as they got my money, they are satisfied. And that is really bad for both the relationship, but also like how I had mentioned the lifetime value of the customer. That's bad as well, because let's say that, I bought that product once and it was good, but it's like, I didn't like how it felt afterwards. Then I'm not going to go through that person again. I might go to somebody different. And there's people who will buy from a specific store, even though it's more expensive, mainly because they feel like they have a connection with the person. They're like, oh, well, I would buy from someplace else, but it's just like the person there is so nice. I'm sure you've had that before, where it's like, oh, but the person knows me by my first name, and they're just really cool. I would feel bad if I didn't get it from them. Like, how cool and how like wild is that it's like through building these relationships first, it's like has such a heavy influence that people will not just buy from you more quickly or subscribe to you more quickly, but they'll also feel bad if they aren't supporting you too, because there's that connection, because they trust you, and because you understand them and you're giving them a lot of value. So as you're going throughout the day, as you're going throughout your journey of making things online, ask yourself how you can continue to build this rapport with people first as you are putting things out there into the world. So thank you so much for listening. I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. If this provided you with a lot of value, make sure to rate and subscribe if you have not done so already. And I look forward to seeing you in the next episode.